Listen to me. Right now, this second, you are standing at the edge of the life you say you want and the life you're actually choosing. Not someday. Not next year. Right now. Because every single moment you hesitate, doubt, or shrink, someone else is stepping into the space you were meant to claim. And today, that stops. This is not motivation. This is a decision. The world is not waiting to understand you. It is waiting to define you. The moment you hesitate, the moment you stay silent, the moment you delay deciding who you are, someone else writes that story for you. Society is efficient like that. It will put you in a box that feels convenient to them, not truthful to you. No, they're not magic. And once that label sticks, you spend years fighting to outgrow it. That's why the most dangerous thing you can do is leave your identity undecided. Power does not come from being chosen. Power comes from choosing yourself clearly, boldly, and without apology, before the world even has a chance to vote. Most people think identity is something you discover over time. That's a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. Identity is something you declare. You decide who you are long before the evidence shows up, before the applause, before the validation. You don't wait until you feel confident to act confident. You act and confidence follows. You don't wait until you feel worthy to take up space. You take the space and worth rises to meet you. Every person you admire did this. Not once, not perfectly, but consistently. They chose their posture, their standards, their voice, before anyone agreed with them. And no, they're not magic. Let me be very clear, the world respects clarity. It does not reward hesitation. When you are unclear about who you are, your energy leaks. Your decisions wobble. Your voice softens at the end of sentences, as if you're asking for permission to exist. But when you decide, fully, internally, unshakably, something changes. Your walk changes. Your tone changes. Your presence enters the room before your body does. People may not like it. They may not understand it. But they will feel it. And feeling is where influence begins. Deciding who you are does not mean you have all the answers. It means you have standards. It means you know what you will tolerate and what you will not. They're not magic. It means you stop auditioning for approval and start operating from self-respect. You stop explaining your ambition. You stop diluting your opinions. You stop negotiating with your own dreams. This decision is quiet, but it is seismic. It happens in the moments no one sees. When you choose discipline over distraction, courage over comfort, truth over belonging. Here's what no one tells you. The moment you decide who you are, resistance shows up. Doubt, fear, criticism. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's a sign you're actually early. Growth is confrontational. Expansion challenges the version of you that learned to survive by staying small. And your mind will fight you. Because certainty is unfamiliar, but you do not obey fear. You observe it, thank it for trying to protect you, and move forward anyway. Identity is not built in ease. It's built in moments where you choose yourself even when it costs you comfort. This decision must be renewed, new daily. Not announced, not defended. Lived. When the world pushes back, then argue. You don't body. When people doubt you, you don't convince. You continue. When the old version of you whispers that this is too much, too fast, too bold, you remind yourself that you are no longer available for a life that fits everyone else but suffocates you. This is how leaders are formed. This is how voices are born. This is how ordinary people become undeniable. Try to decide who you are before the world decides for you. Because the moment you do, everything aligns behind that choice. And from that point on, you are no longer reacting to life. You are commanding it taught tideji. You have been taught to edit yourself, to soften the truth, to hide the parts of your story that feel too messy, too emotional, too uncomfortable for public consumption. Somewhere along the way, you absorb the idea that credibility comes from perfection, that you must arrive polished, unscarred, and unshaken to be taken seriously. But that belief is not only false, it is limiting, because the truth is this: people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty, and the very experiences you've been trying to erase are the ones that make your voice believable. Your struggles are not liabilities. They are proof of survival. Every setback you endured, every door that closed, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it, those moments trained you. They taught you resilience, empathy, and strength in ways success never could. When you speak from that place, people lean in because they recognize themselves in your truth. They hear their own fears in your words. And suddenly, you're no longer just speaking, you're leading. Pain, when owned, becomes authority. Too many people wait until they feel healed enough to share their story. But growth is not a finish line. You don't need to have everything figured out to be impactful. You only need to be honest about where you've been and brave about where you're going. Vulnerability is not oversharing. It's strategic courage. It says, I've been where you are and I didn't quit. That message alone can change someone's trajectory. Silence never saves anyone. Truth does. There is power in reclaiming your narrative. When you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they will get it wrong. They will reduce you to a single moment, a single mistake, a single label. But when you own your journey, you take control of how it's understood. You shift from being judged to being respected. You stop carrying shame and start carrying for purpose. Your past doesn't disappear. When you ignore it, it gains power. When you face it, it loses its grip. Your story also sharpens your voice. It gives your words weight. Anyone can talk about success. Few can speak about failure without bitterness. Few can transform adversity into insight. That's what makes you different. That's what makes people listen. You are not here to impress. You are here to pack impact. And impact comes from truth delivered with courage and clarity. The more you embrace your full story, the more magnetic your presence becomes. And understand this, your story is not just for you. Someone else is watching how you carry it. Someone else is deciding whether they can survive their own struggle based on how you survived yours. When you hide, they hide. When you speak, they breathe easier. This is bigger than personal healing. This is about legacy. About using what you've lived through to light the way forward for others. So your story is not something to overcome. It is something to unleash. Own it fully. Speak it boldly. Because the moment you stop running from where you've been is the moment you become unstoppable in where you're going, Eshta. Most people are waiting to feel ready. They are waiting for the surge of inspiration, the perfect mood, the right timing, some magical alignment that makes action effortless. But that moment rarely comes. And even when it does, it never stays. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls with energy, whether praise and comfort. If your growth depends on how you feel, you will stay exactly where you are. The people who transform their lives understand something brutally simply. Feelings are unreliable, but discipline is not. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel exciting in the moment. It shows up quietly, often when you'd rather not. It shows up when no one is clapping, when progress feels invisible, when quitting would be easier and socially acceptable. Discipline is choosing to act without negotiation. It is honoring commitments you made to yourself, even when your mind tries to renegotiate the terms. This is where real power is built, not in big declarations, but in small, repeated follow-through. What discipline really does is create trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your self-respect. You stop doubting your ability to finish. You stop starting over. You stop relying on external validation to stay consistent. Over time, this internal trust becomes unshakable confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need approval because it's backed by evidence. Your own actions. Your own action. Consistency compounds in ways most people underestimate. One disciplined action rarely feels life-changing, but repeated daily, it becomes identity shifting. You don't wake up one day suddenly successful, strong, or fulfilled. You wake up realizing that the habits you once forced have become automatic. This is the power motivation can never give you. Motivation starts the fire. Discipline keeps it burning long after the excitement fades. Discipline also frees you. People assume it's restrictive, but the opposite is true. The more disciplined you are with your time, energy, and focus, the more freedom you gain. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from last-minute stress. Freedom from regret. When you train yourself to do the hard things consistently, life becomes lighter. Lighter. You stop carrying the weight of unfinished promises and unmet potential. You move with clarity instead of pressure. There will be days when discipline feels heavy. Days when progress is slow, when results don't match effort. when quitting whispers convincingly, those are the days that matter most. Because discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being present. Showing up anyway. Doing the work anyway. Choosing growth anyway. This is how ordinary effort turns into extraordinary outcomes. Some motivation may ignite the dream, but discipline builds the life. And when you commit to showing up daily, without excuses, without drama, you become unstoppable. Tuesday, you are conditioned to ask, to wait, to seek approval before you speak, move or lead. Somewhere early on, you learned that being agreeable was safer than being bold, and that being liked was more important than being respected. So you learn to raise your hand quietly, to soften your opinions, to downplay your ambition. But the world does not reward people who wait for space. It rewards those who claim a take. And every time you ask, you silent for permission, silently tell the room you don't believe you belong there. Taking space is not about volume. It's about certainty. It's about entering a room without shrinking your energy to match someone else's insecurity. They're not magic. It's about speaking clearly without trailing off, standing firmly without apologizing for your presence, owning your ideas without explaining them to death. When you take your space, you shift the dynamic instantly. People respond not to what you say first, but to how you arrive. Presence is felt before it's understood. There will always be people uncomfortable with your expansion. That discomfort is not your responsibility. Your confidence does not need to be justified, and your ambition does not need to be explained. When you stop asking for space, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop framing your ideas as suggestions and start offering them as contributions. You stop dimming your light to avoid being misunderstood. And yes, some people will resist it. But the right people, the ones who matter, will respect it. Taking space also means refusing to shrink yourself in moments of opposition. When challenged, you don't retreat. You don't rush your words. You don't overqualify your experience. You hold your ground with calm certainty. You let silence work for you. You trust that you don't need to perform to be taken seriously. This is not arrogance. This is self-possession. And it changes how power moves in the room. Understand this. If you don't take your space, someone else will occupy it for you and shape the narrative in their favor. They will speak over you, decide for you, define you, not because they are more capable, but because they were more willing to step forward. Taking space is an act of responsibility. It is saying, I am here, I am prepared, and I will not disappear for the comfort of others. This is not about dominance, it's about alignment. It's about amen. When your inner conviction matches your outer presence, people feel it. They listen differently. They engage differently. You become impossible to ignore, not because you demand attention, but because you command respect. Simply by standing fully in who you are. Son, stop asking for space. Take it. Because the moment you do, you don't just change how others see you. You change how you see yourself. And that changes everything. That